Let's take a talk down memory lane, 'cause the stories around here are just insane. Pirates World, the Sporto and Wolfies too. Palm Beach to Key West, that's where we grew. These are the tales from South Florida for you. With your host, Bill Monty.
Thank you, and welcome to Tales from South Florida. I'm your host, Bill Monty. This is the tale of one of the founders of South Florida, specifically Miami Beach. Is a man named Carl. His contributions were legendary, and during the height of his success during the Florida land boom of the 1920s, he was worth an estimated $100 million. That's in 1920s money. Carl was born in Greensburg, Indiana on January 12, 1874. In his early life in Indiana, he became a bicycle enthusiast and opened a modest bicycle shop with his brothers. He became involved in bicycle racing, and that led to many activities related to the emerging American auto industry. In 1904, Carl and his friend James Allison bought an interest in the U.S. patent to manufacture acetylene headlights. Now, these are a precursor to electric models that became common about 10 years later. Soon his firm supplied nearly every headlamp used on automobiles in the United States, as manufacturing plants were built all over the country to supply the overwhelming demand. The headlight patent made him rich as an automotive parts supplier. When Allison and he sold their company that was called Presto Light to Union Carbide in 1913, it sold for $9 million. That's about $268 million in today's money. Carl then operated in Indianapolis, what is believed to be the first automobile dealership in the United States, and also worked at developing an automobile racetrack locally in Indianapolis. That became the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is now home to the Indy 500. In 1912, Carl conceived and helped develop the Lincoln Highway, the first road for the automobile across the entire United States. Following on the success of his East-West Lincoln Highway, Carl initiated efforts on a north-south Dixie Highway in 1914, which would lead from Michigan to Miami. Under his leadership, the initial portion was completed within a single year. To celebrate, he led an automobile caravan to Florida from Indiana. And at the south end of the Dixie Highway, in Miami, Florida, he saw another opportunity. Now, at the time, the area that would become Miami Beach was a swampy, bug-infested stretch of land between Miami and the ocean. He knew early pioneers needed working capital and ideas. In his mind, he was able to transform the 3,500 acres of mangrove swamp and beach into the perfect vacation destination for his automobile industry friends. He was also very aware of the land boom and what was happening in real estate in Miami at the time. He was not the only one. With the assistance of his partners John Graham McKay and Thomas Walkling, Carl became involved in the real estate development of a largely unpopulated barrier island near Miami. They invested in land and dredging. They promoted deed restrictions, not very popular now looking back on it, and provided much-needed working capital to develop Miami Beach. He funded completion on the first bridge that would link Miami to Miami Beach. The new Collins Bridge crossed Biscayne Bay directly at the terminus of the Dixie Highway. Carl was thinking ahead. So much so that his wife and he bought a vacation home in Miami Beach in 1912, and he began acquiring land at an unbelievable pace. And though he did not invent the name Miami Beach, he sure popularized it. Ever the innovative promoter, Carl seemed tireless in his efforts to draw attention to Miami Beach. He acquired a baby elephant that he named Rosie. Rosie was a favorite with newspaper photographers. In 1921, he got free publicity all across the country with what would be called today a promotional photo op of Rosie serving as a golf caddy for vacationing President-elect Warren Harding. There were billboards of bathing beauties enjoying the white beaches and blue ocean waters that appeared throughout the country. Carl even purchased a huge illuminated sign proclaiming, "It's June in Miami," in Times Square. The land boom was on, and Carl was one of the men leading the charge. He, along with other notable names of his time, George Merrick, Henry Flagler, Addison Meisner, and Joseph Young, would become the architects of what became the vacation capital of the world. And then tragedy struck. We'll be right back with the conclusion to Carl's story. Friends, this is Bill Monty. I want you to join me at babyboomer.org. Babyboomer.org is made for people like you and me, baby boomers. It's where you can go to hear podcasts like Tales from South Florida or Bill Monty's Guide to Getting Older, or podcasts about any subject that you can imagine. It also has books, it has articles, it has audiobooks, it has games, it has puzzles. I'm getting tired thinking about it. It's much easier if you just go over to babyboomer.org and see for yourself. And when you get there, if anyone asks, be sure to tell them that Bill Monty sent you. Yes, Carl Graham Fisher, or Carl Fisher, was one of the best-known promoters of the Florida land boom of the 1920s. And were it not for the hurricane of 1926 and then the stock market crash of 1929, his fame would be better remembered than it is today. He tried other ventures after those things happened, most notably his Miami Beach of the North project on Montauk, Long Island. But financial problems from the stock market crash, the end of the Florida land boom, and his severe alcoholism guaranteed that the Montauk project would not be finished. After his fortune was lost, Carl Fisher lived in a small cottage in Miami Beach, doing minor work for old friends. He did take on one more project, the Caribbean Club on Key Largo, intended as a poor man's retreat. It still stands today, but its boast of being where the film Key Largo was filmed, they've never actually been verified. But it's a nice story, isn't it? Carl Fisher died on July 15, 1939 in a Miami Beach hospital that he helped fund. A man who had once been worth up to $100 million in the 1920s had a net worth of just $53,000 at his death. The Miami Daily News noted Fisher's ingenuity, summing him up as Carl G. Fisher, who looked at a piece of swampland and visualized the nation's greatest winter playground. When asked about it, he once said, "I could just as easily have started a cattle ranch." Just south of Miami Beach, Fisher Island is named for him and is one of the wealthiest and most exclusive residential areas in the United States. It is built on a parcel that is a combination of the old Vanderbilt estate and a municipal trash dump. The mighty fall hard, don't they? Carl Fisher, along with the other men, actually built up Miami and Miami Beach and Coral Gables and so much more. We're going to be looking at our next episode at one of them, George Merrick. But for now, please take a moment to hit that like button, to hit that share button, and to leave us a comment or a review if you don't mind. Also, if you scroll down to the show notes, you will see that you can leave a comment. This is a text comment, but you don't have to get on your phone. You can do it right through the platform that you're using. Just click on it and you can send me a message. If you want to, you can leave information on how I can get back in touch with you, or you can always email me at billmonty04@gmail.com or leave me a voicemail at 754-800-3170. I do so appreciate you taking time to listen to this episode of Tales from South Florida. We drop episodes every 2 weeks. Until then, friends, remember, be kind whenever possible, because it's always possible. And take care.
Let's take a talk down memory lane, 'cause the stories around here are just in